Good afternoon, everybody. For those who don't know me yet, for those who haven't joined the other webinars, my name is Adele. I'm B2B Sales Manager at TP-Link South Africa. This is Francois, who's pre-sales. Is part of we are the B2B team here in South Africa for TP-Link. Today we are covering our VIGI Solar Systems, so the CCTV solar systems. That will be the panels, the batteries, and everything else. So everybody that does not know the system yet, I think you're in for a real treat. It's really one of our exciting ranges. I personally do love this range. Yes, and Francois will be conducting the session for us, so I'll hand over to him.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get started. Let's just switch this through. Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate your time and effort that you guys put into joining these sessions. It really obviously helps us grow the business, and as long as we can make you guys understand the solutions we can offer, then at least we can give you guys the solutions that you need. So as Adele mentioned, today we're going to be looking at the solar panel options. This is really becoming a topic that is increasing a lot. It's important across many industries. How to provide reliable surveillance in locations where traditional infrastructure just simply doesn't apply. When people think about deploying CCTV, they immediately assume there will be access to power, network connectivity, and easy installation, exists. People think that that's just right there. It's always nice, quick, easy. But obviously it's not. In reality, many of the environments you need, today, they don't meet these demands, or they don't, those advantages aren't there. Just a quick, simple installation, not all the time. If you think about farms, construction sites, remote perimeter fencing, game reserves, even temporary deployments, it really makes it, changes the setup. There's no running power, there's no network infrastructure, and obviously it becomes really expensive if you want to try and implement those. Obviously, traditionally, these projects, often require trenching, a lot of manual labor, power installation, and that obviously can really push up the costs quite a lot. And that's obviously why we're going to look at the solar panel solutions. So just before we obviously start talking about what VIGI offers, I think it's important to understand the problem that we're trying to solve. As I mentioned, obviously, the challenges in this is we need power, we need network connectivity, we need infrastructure, and we need physical access to the installation and for maintenance, constant maintenance and stuff, for accessing the cameras, all that. If we look at obviously a typical deployment, that's all there. There's already running cables, networking cables are there, and it's easy to trench and set up, the required power and networking. While obviously that approach, works generally, unfortunately in remote locations, this doesn't exist. We need power. There's no power there. It's really expensive to run it. There's no Wi-Fi, no network infrastructure. So obviously, this is where our solution would really fit in and where it would help. Especially obviously, in CCTV, this is the solution where we can actually empower our customers to easily deploy these solutions. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, so next, obviously, let's look at what businesses need. So I think the biggest mistake we see when discussing solar surveillance is focusing on the individual component rather than the actual problem we're trying to solve. In reality, the reality is that most people come, they come with a security challenge. It's not, obviously we need the remote. There's no power, and obviously it's to trench to these locations is, to put in the infrastructure. It either is impossible or it is just not financially feasible. To solve these challenges, I think that there's 4 keys or requirements. First, obviously, we need power. Without power, nothing can run. And then secondly, obviously, we need connectivity. So how do we get those cameras back to the main place? And then third, obviously, we need the surveillance. It doesn't help we just put up cameras that can't operate with at nighttime or in certain instances. Obviously, if you're just running it directly from a solar panel at nighttime, there will be no connectivity. And then obviously, the last thing that's always important is remote access and the ability to do some remote maintenance. Have a look at the camera, see what's going on, and even viewing the footage remotely without having to go to each and every site. Obviously, because a lot of these locations will be remote, and for a user to then go out there all the time to maintain it, to actually look at what the system, it's just not feasible at all. And obviously, where this comes together, we want better security and better visibility, and obviously a reliable operation in locations where traditional infrastructure may not exist. This is obviously where the VIGI solar panel systems really come in handy. So at a high level, the VIGI solar panel just combines everything required to deploy surveillance in locations where traditional infrastructure isn't practical. I think instead of treating power, connectivity, and surveillance and management as separate projects, this one is sorting out the surveillance, this one sorting out the power, this one sorting out the connectivity. What we offer is a complete solution all in one. So we provide power, we provide the battery backup, we provide the remote connection through our VMS, we give you cameras that have 4G options, or even from our MADA side, we offer 3G, 4G routers. And obviously from this, all connecting back to the cloud platform where you can manage everything remotely. You can actually see charge times, you can see your charge rates, and you'll get notifications when your devices are running low. Obviously, we enable surveillance in places where traditional CCTV just won't work with our VGs. Whether it's a farm, a construction site, or remote perimeters, we ensure that everything will work together in a single platform. And I think that's what makes the VIGI Solar solution, not just a product, but a complete solution. It's a complete off-the-grid surveillance solution that you don't need to rely on any third parties. Okay. Then why our solution above the others? I think we've got 4 main advantages. First, really easy deployment. The devices are actually pre-manufactured. Everything is pre-manufactured on it. You've got your DC fly leads, which are already pre-crimped, pre-assembled. There's nothing that needs to be bought extra to deploy the solution. Secondly, remote monitoring. This obviously becomes a lot, one of the biggest things. Going through it, obviously, it's difficult to access these sites and actually get to the equipment. So, being able to monitor that through the app, through our VMS platform online, users can actually download live footage, play back the recordings, all that from the same platform as what we are monitoring our solar panel. Then the third advantage is obviously readiness for for harsh environments. Solar obviously is not, it's going to be deployed outside. This is, it's a no-brainer. And obviously this means that we'll be exposed to the weather, dust, heat, rain, and obviously a little bit of a challenging environment. With our solution, we give you a full IP66, IP67 solution where you can easily install and don't have to worry about the elements actually breaking the equipment. And then obviously the last important thing that I think is we offer the flexibility. We will discuss this in a bit more detail, but we offer different components that could easily fit together to give you the right solution for the right requirement. So we're not only just sitting, and giving you, expensive cameras or expensive equipment to say, here's our only solution. We have different options to fit each and every solution. So you're not over-speccing the site for the customer or under-speccing the site because you need to give him the cheapest option. Okay, so just looking at the solution, obviously, we all know the biggest advantage of solar, obviously getting power from the sun. Now, I'm sure everybody knows how the solar panel actually does that. So I'm not going to bore you guys with that much detail. But obviously, it all starts with the sun through the solar panel. And we've got our battery controller. This includes, obviously, the monitoring software. So it's not just a battery. It's got a built-in charge controller with the monitoring software all included. And obviously, that then forms the essential brain of the system. So that monitors and manages the charge rate, your depletion rate. So all that stuff is then monitored to ensure effective and efficient running, operating on the equipment. And then obviously, with the cameras or with the pre-crimped DC fly leads, you just connect the cameras up, they power on. And then if you're using one of our 4G cameras, you can then actually just straight take cables, plug it into the cameras, and from there as well, just connect up the solar panel to it as well. And then obviously, you can operate this throughout multiple sites, throughout. You can obviously have receive notifications, review footage, manage your deployments, and obviously, you can do all of this without visiting the actual site. You can do this all remotely. Obviously, while the technology behind it might be a little bit, sophisticated, I think the workflow of just our product really, itself is very straightforward. Okay, now we've sorted out, obviously, we sorted out the power problem, but that's also not the biggest challenge with remote surveillance. We actually, once we've got the power, once we've got the cameras, I think it then becomes down to the connectivity. So once we've solved that power challenge, the next question will always be, how do we get that footage or that recording or that video back to the operator? How does he see that? And this is where I think TP-Link is very unique. We don't just offer one solution. We try and make different solutions to fit different needs. I think one of our best options is actually our Insight S345. That's 4G. This allows you to actually connect multiple cameras because you've got 3 downlinks on the actual camera itself. You insert a SIM card into the camera, it acts as a router, and you can actually then connect up 2 more cameras as well as the charge controller or the battery to the camera. Then you've got everything running from 4G. You've got a complete off-the-grid solution. We also do offer wireless bridge kits that can do point to multi-point and point to point, depending on the solution. We've got 500 meters, 1 kilometer, and 5 kilometer. So obviously, this can also be powered from one of the DC jacks, straight from the battery, and you can then power up 2 more cameras on the solution. So you can run your wireless bridge, and you can obviously run your cameras. Then the third option, or the third solution that we can actually give you is the ER703WP-4G. That is our outdoor 4G gateway. So this will obviously not just allow you to connect up multiple cameras, but from obviously this outdoor router, I can then give multiple devices connection, whether that be more wireless bridge kits if I'm deploying, from one side to another, even access points. And obviously, what's nice about this outdoor router is it also gives you Wi-Fi. Sometimes you might need to just change the setting or something if you're not adding it to the cloud and you're not reviewing it, doing it from there. The nice option then comes, at least you can do that by connecting to the Wi-Fi and then managing that equipment from that actual Wi-Fi connection. Most solar solutions, they basically just, there's the power and that's it. TP-Link really goes a lot further than just giving the power. Okay, so we've been talking about the solutions and obviously, what type of deployments they could be. But I think, it's important for you guys to understand how the VIGI solar portfolio looks like. We used to sell these as predefined kits, solutions such as the SP6020 and SP6030. However, we've changed that, and I think, basically thought about, instead of forcing the customer into taking a fixed kit, the solar kits are now in individual components. I think this is honestly a much better approach because, every deployment is different. Some sites require more battery capacity and other sites maybe need just large solar panel solutions. And I think obviously with that, some sites only need one camera and some need multiple cameras. So it all depends on the customer's needs. And obviously that's why we now just sell it in different components. And obviously with this solution, the customer can build the right solution for what is required. Obviously whether the customer needs that small solution or a very large solution, we can offer that to them. So looking at the individual components, first of all, we've got our 60-watt solar panel and our 90-watt solar panel. This obviously can still be used with the batteries, the 20 or the 30-watt. Talking about the batteries, we do have 3 different solutions. So we've got the SP20, which is a 20 amp hour battery, or lithium, obviously. Very compact design for the SP20 and SP30. These two are actually pre-designed into the bracket of the solution. So with these two, you would buy the battery and the bracket, and then all you'd need to buy is the solar panel separate after that. However, with the SP90, this is obviously a 90 amp hour. This is just 330 amps put together with a single charge controller to manage the solution. Now, obviously, as I mentioned before, these are not just batteries. They have got built-in MPPT controllers as well as the management side of it. So you can actually log into it, see the function, see how it's charging, see how much battery life is left. All of that becomes part of these actual batteries with the controllers built into them. Then just looking at the brackets, like I mentioned, obviously with the SP20 and the SP30, the mounting bracket is part of the design. However, if you're looking at the bigger solution, we actually have a 180-watt solar mount kit, which you can mount 2 90-watt solar panels onto the solution. So that's also obviously the brackets that we offer. Okay, now that we've looked at the individual components, this is where the flexibility of our solar system or ecosystem starts to make sense. A complete solar deployment, is built by combining the right solar panel and the right controller and battery for the right mounting options. Obviously, the right camera and then the right connectivity method. For small deployments, we'd use a 60-watt solar panel and the PS20 controller for a single camera. This will give us, 2 days with that one camera, depending on obviously the solution. A big factor, unfortunately, is the IR. IR does use a lot of the battery. However, we also offer our color view, which does not need, the IR. So that will also lower the actual requirement for the battery. For standard, deployment, where you can use the 90-watt solar panel and the 30 amp hour battery, add a 4G camera, maybe another camera onto that. That solution will give you at least 3 days with no sun. That's obviously once again disabling that IR. And then for the bigger deployments, the higher demand, that is that's the 290-watt panels with the bracket and obviously the 90 amp hour battery. That will give you obviously quite a lot of uptime. Once again, these solutions only allow for 3 DC fly leads. It is possible to split them, using a DC splitter. However, that will obviously deplete the battery a lot faster, depending on how many devices you actually have connected. But yeah, so this is obviously the really nice flexibility of it. And obviously, once again, not only are we giving you the flexibility, but everything can be monitored and managed from one platform. Just adding that 4G camera or even a wireless bridge or the outdoor gateway, multiple cameras, everything can be monitored from one platform. And obviously, because the system, is modular, you can size the solution correctly beforehand. And if the customer's needs does change, you're not having to go buy the bigger solution, completely. Let's say the customer actually needed the 30 amp. You don't have to go buy another 90-watt solar panel and the 30 amp hour battery. You could maybe have bought, keep the 60-watt that you have and just upgrade to the 30 amp hour battery. So you're not buying a complete new solution to adjust the customer's needs. Looking at obviously, customers' concerns, when you are deploying this solar solutions, I think obviously, the first thing that will always come to mind, is will it actually survive outdoor? Outdoors for years. These solutions aren't the cheapest out there. So obviously, customers are going to want to know that it will last. But I think, we took a look at that and ensured that, we use top grade, and we actually designed these devices for harsh environments, which we know is obviously critical. So let's obviously start with the solar panels. So we used only grade A solar panels designed for long-term operations. These panels are built to provide consistent energy generation for more than 25 years under normal operating conditions. Obviously, there is, some conditions where it might obviously affect it. However, from general operating conditions, it will give you a 25-year lifespan. Then, obviously, looking at we use lithium batteries. They support more than 500 charges and discharge cycles. Providing obviously a dependable performance across the years. If obviously the battery, the solar panels keep running constantly, it will just keep those batteries topped up, so that the solution obviously doesn't drain past the, the depth of discharge. Then the third component is the MPPT controller. So obviously, for those who don't understand MPPT, this just stands for maximum power point tracking. In simple terms, it obviously just allows the system to harvest energy from the solar panel more effectively. Compared to traditional charging methods, the MPPT controller can actually improve charging efficiency up to 20%. That obviously means more energy captured, your batteries are charging faster, and obviously the overall performance of the system, stays up at maximum. And then, obviously, as we mentioned before, this is designed for outdoor with the IP67 rated enclosure. Obviously, with the bracket being built into the battery being built into the bracket on the smaller solutions, that takes away any dust, any particles that could get into it. On the bigger solution, we have the box, which then also seals out all that, and obviously in the end, it's, whether it's being installed on a farm or construction site, we can ensure the reliability of these devices. It also does come with a 2-year warranty. So if the devices do go faulty, it is easier also to replace the faulty component instead of bringing in the whole device for swap out. So yeah, this is obviously not just a solar powered, solution. It is more than just giving the power. We are giving you more details, more, remote monitoring, all that stuff on this solution. Let's look at, we've looked at the technology. So let's look at some real world deployment scenarios. I think one of the most common applications, obviously in South Africa, is just on the solar, on farms. And I think obviously this is where generally we'll be using this. If you ever worked on a farm, traditional CCTV deployments just it doesn't give you, that's not going to be the solution. People want to view, their cattle. They want to review their gate, all these remote roads, livestock. So all this stuff, won't have power necessarily. It won't have connectivity. And with obviously our solution, we can now give that power and we can give that connectivity. This could be for farm entrances, remote access roads, even like a diesel storage location or even a barn. All this stuff doesn't necessarily have power readily available. So adding our solar solution, really keeps that running. And obviously it just pushes up all what's needed for the monitoring. Second, construction sites. Obviously this is a different kind of a challenge, especially because these are not permanent fixtures. Sometimes construction sites, they want to monitor the equipment overnight, or they want to monitor, how the construction, is phasing. And obviously, construction is not always on the same spot. This month it's here, next month it's over there. So, equipment is moving around, and obviously these are not deployments that are going to be part of the actual construction once it's done. So having those challenges, having something that's, easily movable, easily deployable is not always, choice number one. However, obviously with the solar panels, there's no digging required. There's no need to run cables, and there's obviously no extra manual labor that is needed for these deployments. And then last, obviously, we can look at our estate and perimeter security. This is not always a necessarily one. However, sometimes when these estates are built, it's not built with the, for thinking about we need power, we need this. So having this solution to then deploy there, for the gate, for long perimeters, instead of having to trench throughout the entire perimeter, we can add these solar solutions. And then from there, even maybe run a cable to the next point and actually be able to power, multiple cameras from one solution. Obviously this just helps, for those perimeters, especially if there isn't power. And I think it is really easy and quick to deploy. Okay, that's it from my side. If there's any questions, there is a Q&A. If you guys
see next to the chat, there's like a Q&A button. You can also ask questions anonymously if you want. So we'll wait for the questions. I don't know if there's still a delay on this, but we'll wait for questions. While we wait, there's just a couple of things I want to mention. Guys, we offer free certifications at TP-Link. I don't know, a lot of the guys that's been buying from us a while would know, on the VIGI, on the Umada, on all our products, we do offer free certifications online. So you will go in, you'll learn the material, and we set the test for you, and you can have your certification immediately after that. Your certification lasts you 3 years before you need to renew that one. Then also training for the local guys that's here in Johannesburg. Remember, we have weekly training sessions at our offices here in Midrand. So please let us know if you want to join those. And then the last thing is we've got upcoming webinars. That's two more. The next one we're gonna cover Umada new products, and the next one is gonna be VIGI new products. So that's just what's coming, especially on the VIGI side. There's PTZs, LPRs, everything that's bringing. So we're gonna cover those. So please let me know if you're interested in those. I think to all of you guys, I've sent the calendar as well. If there's anybody that doesn't have the calendar of what's coming, let me know and we will send it to you.
Yeah, going to be just on new products. It will also be on new features and new functions that we will be launching on the VIGI and the Umada side. So yeah.
All right. So first question that came in is Manuel Kriya. He said, "What is the real battery life on cloudy or rainy days?"
So yeah, like I mentioned, with our smaller solution, you can get up to, if you're using one camera with the 20 amp hour, without obviously having without having the solar panel connected, you can get up to 2 days with the 20 amp hour. With the 30 amp hour, you can get up to 3 days with one camera connected. That is without obviously the battery or the solar panel connected to the battery whatsoever. Like I mentioned, obviously, it also depends on the camera, whether it's running IR or obviously if it is, maybe a bigger PTZ. It all just depends. But on a smaller 2 megapixel without obviously IR, we had it run for 2 days on the 20 amp hour and 3 days on the 30 amp hour before it had to be charged.
Just waiting to see if any more questions come in, guys. While we wait to see if anything comes in, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. If anybody wants to drop off, we will be sending a recording of the entire webinar as well as a copy of the presentation through to you guys. So our details, our email address will be included in there. Let us know if there's any other questions on there as well. Anonymous is asking, can we use the solar power solution to power a Starlink Mini if cell networks are not available? What is the voltage coming from the output on the solar power system? So it's two questions there.
Well, obviously, it's one question combined. So our solution gives out 12 volt. So the DC fly leads that's on there is 12 volt. That's obviously straight out. I'm not sure what voltage the Starlink Mini uses, but if it uses 12 volt, you will definitely be able to power it from the solar panel solution. Okay, let's see if there's any more. I
think we're just going to give it 2 minutes because sometimes there is a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, as Adele mentioned, if you guys are interested in any of the online certifications, please let us know and we will get you guys registered. All the content is free. Everything is free to use. Just see anonymous 12 volt and how many watts. So it obviously will depend on the device. It is a bit adjustable to what's needed, especially if you are running on a big PTZ. It will pull as much. It will basically give the device connected to it what it needs. So obviously, if I'm using a bigger PTZ, that would drain the battery a lot faster because it is giving more amperage than it's needed. So it will basically give the device more power if it's needed for the device. So there's not a specific watts that it gives out. There's no specific wattage that it gives out. So it's not a specific amperage for the device.
It looks like that might be it, guys. So thank you for joining us. What can you just Manuel, I think that's how you say your name, is asking how are firmware updates handled? Any downtime?
Yes, yeah. So obviously all the firmware can be done online. So obviously from the portal, you can actually then do it from there. there will be some downtime, but basically it will do the upgrade. And once the firmware update is done, it will then switch off, and then it's just that normal boot up time, which usually is around a minute for the devices. So you can even schedule the updates to run whenever there might be a time frame where you believe it obviously to be a bit less chaotic. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Just let us know if there's any questions in the emails that we will be sending out to you guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you
very much all.